Hi Corinne, this is my submission for the video and reading summary. Bear with me here, I'm going to be checking my notes because some of this is a little bit technical stuff, but don't worry. This is what I wrote down here, what we kind of took from it. So for the first video, it was from Professor Stefan Vargo. This was the Service Dominant Logic, Basic Developments, and State of the Art at UBT was the YouTube video. So this one talked about how service dominant logic is a newer trend that companies are kind of like transitioning to. And although Professor Vargo argues that this is not entirely true, it's more we're just kind of changing the way that we look at the economy instead of like changing the economy itself. So like he talked about like intangible goods that are like exchanged, and basically that doesn't necessarily fit the goods dominant logic, like which is like the standard trading money for goods that have value. The intangibles end up being a part of more like the service dominant logic. He talks a lot about how like the goods dominant logic is the old way of thinking, kind of like dating back to 1776, I believe is what he said. And like, you know, the service is exchanged for service in a service dominant logic, but service as we use it is not the same as service in a goods dominant logic. That makes any sense at all, but that's kind of a quote that I pulled out from there, where I was like, for as complicated as it sounds, like it makes a lot of sense. And then he kind of talks about how like the focus like shifts away from like actual physical resources, and it's more about like how it's like your resources, like skills and knowledge and your competencies. And so like the goods don't have value until they're used, and like value is only placed on things by people. So like if something is valuable to me, it's not going to be valuable to other people. But like I don't know, like yeah, he talks about how like in the economic world, like there's no value destroyers or like no value makers. But in the marketing world, it's different. So that's kind of where he's talking about how like the service dominant logic kind of comes around. It's complicated, but I think I understand. I think you understand what I mean. The next video that we had to look at was Professor Christian Gronrose. I don't know how to say it. Service dominant logic from the perspective of relationship marketing. So this one talked about how service-based industry is extremely important in the view of the customer. So businesses can have great products, but if the support isn't behind it in terms of customer service, then it makes it a less user-friendly experience for customers. So the supplier and the customer are separate entities. So every time the supplier supports the customer with good service, then it grows the supplier's business. So if you take care of your customers quickly and effectively, then you get less complaints and you lose less money from driving away business from being user-friendly. So the example that I thought of like in my personal life was like, think of like a big company like Apple. Like Apple has tons and tons of customer support for, you know, people like me at home that are just trying to figure out why my phone's not working correctly, to like going into a place like SaskTel or the Wireless Age or any of those spots, and they have a ton of resources available to the people that work in those businesses and within those companies. And like they have it all, like chatbots, workers, call centers, like there's somebody always able to help you. They even have like online answering forums, so if you know it's like oh, I've seen this issue before on different phones, then you know you can go into the forum about that and try to diagnose what's wrong from there. So that was kind of like a little part of the example that I related this video to. And then the video also kind of goes on to talk about how like customers use the products they receive from the suppliers for service-based activities, but the service-based industry should still be a focus on serving people. And like this is all from like supplier to business and then business to customer. So yeah, this one kind of focused on the supplier to business and like how do you make the business make money so that way they keep coming back to you as a supplier. So for the final piece of media that we looked at, it was the reading, Evolving to a New Dominant Logic for Marketing, and that was by Stefan Vargo and Robert Lush? I don't know, something like that. Vargo was also the one that did one of the videos, so there were definitely some themes that transferred over from what he talked about to his video as well. Again, he kind of talked about how it's a fundamental shift in marketing theory more than it is in like actually changing economic theory. Then they kind of propose like moving away from a goods dominant logic, which focuses on tangible products and transactions, more towards the service dominant logic, which like values like co-creation, relationships, and the intangible like aspects of service. So the four key concepts that I pulled out from the article that were a theme throughout these videos and this article and everything else, kind of did my best to summarize them. So the first one was like value co-creation, and it talks about how consumers are not just like recipients of value, they're like actively participating in creating value through their interactions. And then the second one was service as the basis of exchange. So this is like, rather than viewing goods as the primary focus, they basically say that service is defined as the application of like specialized skills and benefits of others, and that's what should be at the core of marketing. And then the third one was like the role of relationships. So like strong relationships between firms and customers are essential for value creation. That kind of goes back to value co-creation a little bit as well. So like even some of these themes like tied into one another. And then the fourth one was resource integration. So value comes from the integration of various resources, including like customers, suppliers, and stakeholders. So that's kind of essentially what I was able to pull from the reading as well. That's what I pulled from all of these different things. So yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your weekend and you were kind of able to follow along with some of this. Thank you.